The crystal champagne flute shattered in my hand as Mark's words echoed through our marble-floored living room. Madeline was just a placeholder, sweetheart. We both know that. He wrapped his arm around Clara's waist, and my world imploded. I'm Madeline, and 10 minutes ago I was celebrating my 10th wedding anniversary. Now I'm watching my husband announce to our gathered friends and family that he's leaving me for his own daughter's best friend. Dad, stop it! Clara, Mark's daughter, pushed through the stunned crowd. This isn't how we planned to tell her. Planned. They had planned this. Blood trickled down my palm, but I barely felt it. My mind flashed back to the classroom where I'd spent 7 years teaching before Mark convinced me to give it up. You don't need to work anymore, he'd said. Let me take care of you. Lucia, my best friend, appeared at my side with a napkin. Let me see that hand, she whispered, but I pulled away. How long? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. The party guests grew silent, hungry for drama. Mark's smile never wavered. Does it matter? Clara and I have found something real, something beyond this arrangement. Arrangement? I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign. Is that what you call our marriage? Oh, come on, Madeline. Clara stepped forward, her designer dress probably worth more than my annual teaching salary had been. We all know you married Dad for his money. At least I actually love him. The room spun. My mother's voice echoed in my head. Teaching isn't just about lessons, honey. It's about dignity, about standing up for what's right. Actually, I straightened my spine. I married your father because I loved him. My mistake, clearly. William, our mutual friend and business associate, moved toward me. Mark, this is inappropriate. It's her anniversary party, for God's sake. It's fine, I said, though nothing was fine. I appreciate everyone coming tonight, but I think the party's over. As guests began filing out, throwing pitying glances my way, Lucia stayed close. You're bleeding, she insisted. You know what's funny? I said, loud enough for Mark to hear. I was going to tell you about the tutoring app tonight, the one you called a waste of time. William's team finished the beta testing yesterday. Mark's head snapped up. What tutoring app? The one I've been developing for the past year, the one you were too busy to hear about. I turned to Clara. Congratulations, he's all yours. But remember, sweetheart, if he did this to me, he can do it to you. Don't be bitter, Madeline, Mark called after me as I headed for the stairs. It doesn't suit you. We'll have the lawyers draw up generous terms. I stopped mid-step. You know what doesn't suit me, Mark? Pretending to be the trophy wife you wanted while you dismissed everything I cared about. Remember when I tried to talk to you about expanding educational access through technology? You said, leave the business to people who understand it. Because you were a teacher, he scoffed. What do teachers know about business? Lucia grabbed my arm, probably sensing I was about to throw something. Come on, Mad, let's get that hand cleaned up. In my ensuite bathroom, as Lucia carefully picked glass from my palm, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I barely recognized myself in the expensive dress and carefully styled hair. What would my mother think if she could see me now? I should have known, I said, wincing as Lucia applied antiseptic. The late nights, the secret phone calls. I was so stupid. Stop that, Lucia snapped. You trusted your husband. That makes him the stupid one, not you. A knock at the bedroom door made us both jump. It was Ramona, my old teaching mentor. She'd retired last year but had insisted on coming tonight. Madeline, can I come in? It's open, I called. Ramona entered, her face tight with concern. I just heard. That man is a fool. I gave up everything for him, I whispered. My career, my independence. No, Ramona said firmly. You put those things on hold. There's a difference. Tell me about this app. Despite everything, I felt a spark of excitement. It's a platform that connects underprivileged students with qualified teachers for free online tutoring. I've been working on it in secret, using my event planning contacts to find investors. And William's involved? Lucia asked, finishing with the bandage. He's our primary investor. We launch next month. I laughed bitterly. Mark never even noticed the meetings. He was probably too busy with Clara. Ramona took my uninjured hand. Your mother would be so proud of you, continuing her legacy of making education accessible to everyone. Downstairs, I could hear Mark and Clara arguing with the remaining guests. The sound of breaking glass suggested someone had dropped a champagne bottle. "What are you going to do?" Lucia asked quietly. I touched the bandage on my palm, feeling the sting beneath it. "I'm going to teach them both a lesson they'll never forget." 3 days after my world exploded, I found myself sitting in my old classroom. The school was empty for summer break, but Principal Thompson had always let me keep a key. The familiar scent of chalk and old books wrapped around me like a comfort blanket. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mark. I deleted it without reading, just like the others. "I thought I'd find you here." Lucia's voice came from the doorway. "You're not answering your phone." "I'm thinking," I said, running my fingers along the worn desk surface where I'd spent years helping students find their potential. "You're hiding," she corrected, pulling up a student chair. "Have you even been back to the house?" "Why should I? Mark's lawyers already sent the divorce papers to my email. Apparently, I need to vacate the premises within 30 days. I tried to keep the bitterness from my voice and failed. "You're not seriously going to let them push you out like that?" Before I could answer, the click of heels echoed down the hallway. Clara appeared in the doorway, looking less polished than usual. "We need to talk," she announced. Lucia stood up, but I waved her back down. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of my friend." Clara's perfectly made-up face tightened. "Fine. Dad wants you to sign the papers and leave quietly. He's prepared to be generous." "Generous?" I laughed. Like he was generous in announcing his affair at our anniversary party? "That wasn't the plan," Clara insisted, perching on a desk. "He was drunk. Things got out of hand." "Things got out of hand," I repeated. "Is that what you tell yourself to justify sleeping with your friend's father?" Clara's face flushed. "Look, I know you're hurt, but this doesn't have to get ugly. Dad's offering you the beach house and a significant settlement." "The beach house?" I stood up, anger finally breaking through my numbness. "I don't want his houses or his money. I want—" "What?" Clara challenged. "Him? Because that's not happening. We're in love." Lucia made a disgusted sound. "You're delusional if you think this ends well for you." "Nobody asked you," Clara snapped. She turned back to me. "Just sign the papers and step down gracefully. Don't embarrass yourself by fighting this." I walked to the whiteboard and picked up a marker. The familiar feel of it in my hand centered me. "You know what I used to teach my students, Clara? That actions have consequences." "Is that a threat?" "No, it's a lesson." I turned to face her. "One you and your father seem to have forgotten." "Whatever." Clara stood up, smoothing her skirt. "Dad said you'd be difficult. That's why he had the board remove you from the charity foundation this morning." The marker snapped in my hand. The foundation had been my project for the past 5 years, bringing educational resources to underfunded schools. "He can't do that," Lucia protested. "He already did." Clara's smile was pure venom. "Face it, Madeline. You're just the teacher he married for arm candy. Time to go back to grading papers." After she left, Lucia exploded. "That entitled little brat. How dare she?" "She's right," I interrupted quietly. "What? Mad? No, listen." I walked to my old desk and opened my laptop. I've been sitting here remembering who I was before Mark. I was good at this, Lucia. I changed lives in this classroom. And now? I pulled up the beta version of my tutoring app. Now I'm going to change even more lives. And in the process, I smiled, remembering all the confidential documents Mark had carelessly left lying around over the years, thinking I was too simple to understand them. In the process, I'm going to teach them both exactly what happens when you underestimate a teacher. I started typing an email to William. Mark thinks he took everything from me. He has no idea what I'm about to take from him. Lucia leaned forward, reading over my shoulder. "Holy shit, Mad. Are you sure about this?" "Remember Tommy Martinez?" I asked, still typing. "The kid who couldn't read in 6th grade? Everyone had given up on him, called him stupid, disruptive. But I saw what he needed, just a different approach to learning. By the end of the year, he was reading at grade level." "What's your point?" I hit send on the email. "My point is that sometimes the most satisfying lessons are teaching people who think they're beyond learning." My phone buzzed with William's immediate response. "Meeting set for tomorrow. Investors are interested." "Mark always said I didn't understand business," I said, packing up my laptop. Time to show him exactly how much I learned while playing the quiet trophy wife. Lucia grinned. What do you need from me? First, I need you to help me move my things out of the house. Not because they told me to, but because I choose to. I stood up, taking one last look around the classroom. Then I need you to help me plan the biggest lesson of my career. And what lesson is that? I smiled, thinking of Mark and Clara's smug faces. That karma is just education by another name. Your husband's company has serious vulnerabilities, William said, sliding a folder across the conference table. And his daughter's new project, it's built on sand. I opened the folder, scanning the documents inside. 1 week had passed since my confrontation with Clara in my old classroom, and I'd been busy. Tell me more about this project of hers. She's launching a luxury lifestyle brand, William explained, looking amused, using Mark's connections and your old charity foundation's contact list. My contact list? The paper crinkled under my tightening grip. She's calling it elite education, private tutoring for the ultra-wealthy, combined with luxury experiences. He shrugged. Basically, everything your app stands against. The irony wasn't lost on me. And Mark's funding it? Every penny. He's so desperate to prove she's a business genius, he's overlooking basic due diligence. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara. Need your help with something? Can we meet? Speaking of Clara, I showed William the message. Looks like someone's having second thoughts. Be careful, he warned. It could be a trap. Or an opportunity. I typed a quick reply, agreeing to meet her at a local cafe. Either way, I need to see what she wants. An hour later, I sat across from Clara, watching her stir her untouched latte. Gone was the confident woman who'd confronted me in my classroom. She looked worried. I need your contacts, she blurted out, from the foundation. Excuse me? Look, I know things are weird between us, but you built amazing relationships with those donors. My project needs that kind of network. I took a slow sip of my coffee. So, you want to use my connections to build a business that goes against everything those donors believed in? It's not like that, she protested. Elite education will provide opportunities. For the rich to get richer, I finished, while my app provides free education to anyone who needs it. Clara's eyes narrowed. Dad said your app would never work. The market's too saturated. Is that what he thinks? I pulled out my tablet and opened a presentation. Want to see what your father missed while he was busy underestimating me? She leaned forward despite herself. I flipped through slides showing user engagement data, partnership agreements, and projected growth charts. This is impressive, she admitted reluctantly. It's more than impressive. It's revolutionary. I closed the tablet. But you didn't come here to discuss my app. You came because you're in trouble. Color flooded her cheeks. I'm not. Your investors are asking questions you can't answer. Your business plan has holes, and Mark's too proud to admit he might have backed the wrong horse. How did you? She stopped, realization dawning. William told you. William's not the only one talking. I leaned forward. Here's what I'm willing to offer. I'll help you restructure your business plan, make it actually viable. In exchange, you'll stop using my foundation's contacts. Why would you help me, after everything? Because unlike you and your father, I actually care about education. I stood up. Think about it. But don't take too long. My offer expires in 24 hours. Back at my new apartment, I found Ramona waiting. My former mentor took one look at my face and said, "You're plotting something." Clara took the bait, I confirmed, dropping onto my couch. She'll be back. And then what? Ramona asked. You help her destroy her own company? No. I pulled up my app's interface on my laptop. I help her build something real, something that will ultimately become part of my platform. Ramona's eyes widened. You're going to absorb her company? Eventually. Once she realizes her father's approval isn't worth sacrificing her integrity for. I showed her the message I'd just received from Clara. I'll do it. When can we start? You're taking a big risk, Ramona cautioned. What if she tells Mark? She won't. Her pride won't let her admit she needs my help. I sent Clara a meeting invitation. Besides, Mark's too busy trying to shore up his own company's weaknesses to notice what his daughter's doing. Speaking of which, Ramona pulled out her own tablet. My contacts in the education technology sector are very interested in your app. We could launch globally within months. I smiled, thinking of Mark's dismissive attitudes toward my little project. Perfect timing. Clara's about to give us insider access to exactly the market we need to target. You're not just teaching them a lesson, Ramona realized. You're building an empire. I'm doing what I've always done, I corrected her. I'm helping people learn. Some lessons just cost more than others. My phone buzzed again, Clara accepting the meeting invitation. Below it was another deleted message from Mark, probably another attempt to pressure me into signing the divorce papers. Let the real education begin, I murmured, setting up the pieces for my next move. Your entire business model is backwards, I told Clara, circling another flaw in her proposal. We sat in my temporary office, surrounded by whiteboards covered in flowcharts and market analysis. 2 weeks had passed since she'd accepted my help. What do you mean? She frowned, leaning forward. Dad's consultants tell him what he wants to hear. I stood up, uncapping a marker. Look at your target demographic. You're aiming for the top 1%, right? Obviously. That's where the money is. Wrong. I drew a pyramid on the whiteboard. That's where the egos are. The real money is in volume and accessibility. Clara's phone buzzed. Probably Mark again. She ignored it, which was happening more frequently lately. But luxury brands are dying, I interrupted. Ask yourself, what happens when you run out of rich kids whose parents want to brag about private tutoring? She bit her lip, considering. So, what's your suggestion? Pivot. Keep the premium tier, but add layers. I sketched out a new structure. Make it aspirational, not exclusionary. Like your app, she said slowly. Exactly. Speaking of which, I pulled up my latest user statistics. We just hit 1 million downloads. Clara's eyes widened. In 2 weeks? Turns out people want education more than they want status. I watched her process this. Want to know our profit margins? Before she could answer, William burst into the office. Madeline, we have a situation. What's wrong? He glanced at Clara, hesitating. It's fine, I said. She should hear this. Mark's company just lost their biggest client. They're claiming financial mismanagement. Clara jumped up. What? That's impossible. Dad would never. Unless, I interrupted quietly. He was too distracted to notice some irregularities in the accounts. What irregularities? Clara demanded. I pulled up a file on my laptop. These transactions, for instance. All authorized by your father, all questionable. Clara's face went pale as she read. These dates. This was when you were planning to humiliate me at my anniversary party? Yes, I noticed that too. William cleared his throat. The board is calling for an audit. Dad will fix it, Clara insisted, but her voice wavered. He always fixes everything. Not this time, I said gently. This time he's going to learn what happens when you take your eyes off what matters. Clara's phone buzzed again. This time she looked at it, and her face crumpled. He's calling an emergency meeting. I have to go. After she left, William turned to me. You're playing a dangerous game, Madeline. No, I corrected him. I'm teaching a valuable lesson. How's the takeover plan progressing? Our investors are ready. Once Mark's company starts to crumble, which it will, I smiled, thanks to those irregularities you helped me uncover. You know he'll figure it out eventually. By then it'll be too late. I checked my watch. The board meeting starts in an hour. Want to bet how long it takes them to suspend him? My phone lit up with a text from Lucia. Mark just stormed into his office looking like hell. What did you do? I showed William the message. Shall we grab coffee and watch the show? From the cafe across the street, we had a perfect view of Mark's office building. Within 2 hours, we watched him storm out, his face red with rage. Right on schedule, William murmured. My phone rang. Clara. Hello? What did you do? She demanded, her voice shaking. The board just suspended Dad pending investigation. I didn't do anything, I said truthfully. Your father did this to himself, just like he did everything else. They're saying he might face criminal charges. Actions have consequences, Clara. Remember? A long pause. Then, I need to see you. Tonight. There's something you should know. After I hung up, William raised an eyebrow. Think she'll tell you about the offshore accounts? The ones Mark set up to hide money from me in the divorce? I smiled. Probably. She's starting to realize her father isn't the man she thought he was. And you're going to help her see the light? No. I watched Mark's car screech out of the parking garage. I'm going to help her see the truth. Sometimes that's the hardest lesson of all. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from Ramona. Global launch is ready. Should we proceed? I thought about Mark's face when he realized his company was crumbling, about Clara's growing understanding of her father's true nature, about my app ready to revolutionize education access worldwide. Yes, I typed back. It's time for the final exam. William raised his coffee cup in a toast. To karma? I shook my head, thinking of all my former students who'd overcome seemingly impossible odds. To education, the great equalizer. He's been lying to everyone. Clara's voice cracked as she paced my apartment. The offshore accounts, the fake clients, all of it. And I helped him hide it. I poured her another glass of wine. 3 weeks had passed since Mark's suspension, and his empire was crumbling faster than anyone expected. Well, almost anyone. Did you know? She demanded suddenly. When you married him, did you know what kind of man he was? No, I answered honestly. I thought he was brilliant, driven. I mistook his manipulation for charisma. Like I did. She collapsed onto my couch. God, I'm such an idiot. I threw away my best friend, my reputation, everything. For what? To be Daddy's perfect little princess? My phone buzzed with a news alert. Wade Financial under federal investigation. CEO faces potential charges. Clara's phone lit up simultaneously. That'll be Dad, she said, not moving to answer it. He's been calling nonstop, trying to convince me to sign documents saying I knew nothing about the accounts. Will you? I don't know. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. What would you do? Before I could answer, someone pounded on my door. Madeline, open this door right now. Clara jumped. Dad? I walked calmly to the door, opening it to find Mark looking decidedly less polished than usual. His tie was loose, his eyes wild. Where is she? He demanded, pushing past me. Right here. Clara stood up. Stop making a scene. Making a scene? He laughed hysterically. The feds are crawling through our accounts, the board has suspended me, and you're having wine with my wife? Soon-to-be ex-wife, I corrected smoothly. The papers are ready whenever you are. He spun toward me. You did this somehow. Did what, Mark? Cook your books? Create fake clients? Hide money offshore? I picked up my tablet. No, that was all you. Dad, Clara's voice shook. Is it true? About the charity foundation money? Mark's face went pale. Who told you about that? I did, I said. Show her the transfer records, Mark. Show her how you used my foundation's donations to fund your personal projects. It wasn't like that, he shouted. I was going to pay it back. With what? Clara demanded. The money from my company? The one you convinced me would work despite having no real business plan? I was trying to help you succeed. No, she said quietly. You were trying to hurt Madeline, and you used me to do it. My phone buzzed again. William. Board meeting in 30 minutes. Final vote on removal. You need to go, Mark, I said. I believe you have a meeting to attend. He stepped toward me, finger pointed. This isn't over. I'll figure out how you did this. How I did what? I interrupted. Force you to commit fraud? Make you cheat on your wife? Convince you to manipulate your daughter? I moved closer. Face it, Mark. You did this to yourself. Clara, he turned to his daughter. Come on, we're leaving. She didn't move. No. What? I said no. She straightened her spine. I'm staying here. Madeline's helping me salvage what's left of my company. Your company? He laughed bitterly. Your company is nothing without my money. Actually, I pulled up some documents on my tablet. Her company is doing quite well since she restructured, unlike yours. Mark's phone started ringing. He glanced at it, swore, and headed for the door. This isn't over, he repeated. Yes, it is, Clara called after him. I'm testifying for the prosecution, Dad. The door slammed so hard my windows rattled. After a long silence, Clara whispered, Did I just do that? You did. I sat beside her. Are you okay? No. She wiped her eyes. But I will be. What happens now? Now? I showed her my tablet, open to my app's interface. Now we complete your company's integration into our platform. By this time next week, Elite Education will be a subsidiary of Global Learning Access. Your app, she managed a weak smile, the one Dad said would never work. The one that just hit 10 million users, I confirmed. Want to help me make it 20? Why are you helping me? She asked suddenly. After what I did. Because good teachers don't just help the students who make it easy. I squeezed her hand. They help the ones who need it most. My phone buzzed one final time. A news alert. Breaking, Wade Financial CEO removed by board vote. Clara read it over my shoulder and took a deep breath. Teach me, she said. Teach me everything you know about building something real. I smiled, thinking of all my former students who'd found their way after losing their path. Lesson 1. Real success isn't about winning. It's about learning from your mistakes. What's lesson 2? Lesson 2 is about karma, I said, opening my laptop. But I think your father's taking care of that one for us. The numbers don't lie. William announced to the packed conference room. Global Learning Access has exceeded all projections. We're looking at a valuation of over $2 billion. I sat at the head of the table, watching faces light up around me. 1 month had passed since Mark's removal, and everything had changed. Clara sat to my right, taking notes on her tablet. And Elite Education's integration? Someone asked. Clara straightened. Our premium tutoring service has increased platform engagement by 47%. It turns out wealthy parents are more willing to pay when they know their money helps fund free education for others. Unlike some other educational initiatives we know, Lucia muttered from my left, just loud enough for me to hear. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark's lawyer. Client willing to settle. No contest divorce. Requesting meeting. Speaking of other initiatives, William continued, Wade Financial's collapse has created a unique opportunity. Their educational investment portfolio is up for sale. At pennies on the dollar, I added, looking up from my phone, which means we can acquire. The conference room door burst open. Mark stood there looking haunted and disheveled. We need to talk. Security moved forward, but I held up my hand. It's okay. I turned to the room. Take 15, everyone. As people filed out, Clara stayed seated. I'm not leaving you alone with him. Mark's eyes flickered to his daughter. Clara, please. Save it, she snapped. I spent 6 hours with federal investigators yesterday, Dad. 6 hours. I studied Mark's face, the dark circles under his eyes, the stubble on his chin. What do you want? To make a deal. He dropped a folder on the table. I'll sign whatever you want. Just help me fix this. Fix what exactly? I opened the folder. Inside were divorce papers already signed. Your company, your reputation, your relationship with your daughter. All of it. He slumped into a chair. You won, okay? You destroyed everything I built. No, Clara said quietly. You did that yourself. I taught you everything you know about business. He shot back. You taught me how to lie, she corrected. Madeline taught me how to build something real. I closed the folder. Why are you really here, Mark? He deflated. The feds found the foundation money. They're talking prison time. And you want me to help? I laughed. Why would I do that? Because you're a teacher, he said desperately. You believe in second chances. Before I could respond, William returned with 2 federal agents. Sorry to interrupt, but these gentlemen have some questions about certain financial transactions. Mark went pale. You didn't? Actually, I did. I stood up. Remember when you said I didn't understand business? Turns out I understand it well enough to document every illegal transaction you made using my foundation's accounts. You'll never prove... She doesn't have to, Clara interrupted, pulling out a USB drive. I already gave them everything they need. Mark stared at his daughter in disbelief. You betrayed me? No, Dad. I chose to do the right thing. There's a difference. As the agents led Mark away, William turned to me. That was quite a show. Think he finally learned his lesson? The hard way, I said, watching through the window as Mark was escorted to a waiting car. But sometimes that's the only way it sticks. Clara touched my arm. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet, I smiled. We still have work to do. Your father's educational investment portfolio isn't going to restructure itself. About that, William pulled out his tablet. Ramona called. She's lined up another 20 partners for the global expansion. We're looking at potential reach of 50 million users by year's end. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Wade Financial CEO arrested on federal charges. Education Foundation at center of investigation. Clara read it and took a deep breath. What now? Now? I reopened my laptop, showing the latest user engagement statistics. Now we do what teachers do best. We take something broken and build something better. And my father? Will have plenty of time to think about his choices. I pulled up our new organizational chart. Meanwhile, how do you feel about heading our premium services division? For real this time, not just as a vanity project. Her eyes widened. You're serious? Completely. You've learned more in the past month than most people learn in years. William cleared his throat. The board meeting needs to reconvene, shall we? As people filed back in, Lucia leaned over to whisper, Karma's a hell of a teacher. I watched Clara confidently present our next quarter projections to the board, saw the passion in her eyes when she talked about educational access, and remembered my mother's words about teaching being about more than lessons. No, I whispered back. Teachers are better than karma. We don't just punish mistakes. We help people learn from them. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Ramona. Ready for phase 2? I smiled, thinking of all the students still waiting to access quality education, of all the lives we could change. Ready, I typed back. Time to show the world what real educational revolution looks like. Guilty on all counts, the news anchor announced. Former CEO Mark Wade faces up to 20 years. I muted the TV in my office, watching Clara's reflection in the window as she processed the news. 6 months had passed since Mark's arrest, and today's verdict felt like the final chapter of a very long story. Are you okay? I asked. She turned from the screen, straightening her shoulders. I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. We're voting on the Southeast Asia expansion. That's not what I asked. I know. She sighed, dropping into a chair. He wanted me to testify on his behalf. Sent me a letter from jail last week. And I told him the truth would come out either way. She managed a weak smile. Like you taught me. My phone buzzed. William, stock's up 15% on the verdict. Press wants statements from both of you. Not today, I texted back. Lucia burst in, waving her tablet. Have you seen the user numbers? We just hit 70 million. The verdict news is driving signups through the roof. People love a redemption story, I said, watching Clara carefully. Is that what this is? Clara asked quietly. Redemption? Before I could answer, Ramona appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you both. My heart stopped when I saw who followed her in. Mark, in an expensive suit despite his recent incarceration, stood awkwardly in my office doorway. His lawyer hovered behind him. 5 minutes, the lawyer said. That's all we agreed to. Clara stood so quickly her chair toppled. What are you doing here? Out on bail pending appeal, Mark said, his voice rougher than I remembered. I wanted to manipulate us again, I suggested coolly. Or just to see the empire you lost. He flinched. I came to apologize. Right, Clara laughed bitterly. Because you're sorry you did it or sorry you got caught. Both. He moved further into the office, eyes taking in the awards on the walls, the global map showing our user base. You've built something remarkable here, both of you. No thanks to you, I said. I know. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. That's why I'm here. My appeal, I'm dropping it. Clara's breath caught. What? I'm pleading guilty. To everything. He placed the envelope on my desk, including what I did to the foundation. The restitution papers are in there, along with my confession. I didn't touch the envelope. Why now? Because I watched my daughter's TED Talk last week, the one about educational equality. His voice cracked. From my jail cell, I watched her explain how learning can transform lives, how everyone deserves a chance. He turned to Clara. You sounded just like your mother. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Dad. No, let me finish. He straightened his tie, a nervous gesture I remembered well. I thought business was about winning at any cost. But you two, you've proven there's another way, a better way. It's called integrity, I said quietly. Something you could have learned a long time ago. Yes. He stepped back toward the door. My lawyer has the rest of the paperwork. The offshore accounts, everything. Use it to help more students. Clara moved forward. How long? With the guilty plea? 12 years, maybe less with good behavior. He attempted a smile. Plenty of time to catch up on my reading. I'll visit, she said suddenly. Not right away, but someday. He nodded, eyes bright. I'd like that. After he left, Clara picked up the envelope with shaking hands. Did that really just happen? Open it, I suggested. Inside was everything he'd promised. Confession, restitution papers, account details, and something else, a handwritten note. Clara read it aloud. I never told you this, but your mother was a teacher. She believed education could change the world. I lost sight of that, lost sight of everything that mattered. But watching you two build this company, seeing how many lives you're changing, maybe she was right all along. Lucia wiped her eyes. Damn, maybe he did learn something. The hardest lessons, I said, thinking of my own journey, often come with the highest cost. My phone buzzed again. William. Asia partners are waiting. Should I delay the board meeting? Clara straightened, wiping her eyes. No, tell them we're coming. We have an expansion to approve. Are you sure? I asked. We can postpone? No. She smiled, and for the first time, I saw real peace in her expression. Dad's learning his lessons. Now it's time to help others learn theirs. As we walked to the boardroom, past walls covered with success stories from our users, I thought about karma, justice, and education, about how sometimes the biggest transformations come from the deepest wounds. Ready? I asked Clara as we reached the boardroom doors. She squared her shoulders. Ready to change more lives? Always. I smiled, thinking of all the students yet to reach, all the lessons yet to teach. Then let's get to work. And that's how Global Learning Access began, I concluded, looking out at the sea of eager faces in the university auditorium, with a betrayal that became a revolution. A student raised her hand. But weren't you afraid, going up against such powerful people? Of course, I smiled. But good teachers know that fear can be the best motivator. Speaking of good teachers, a familiar voice called from the back of the hall. Clara walked down the aisle, tablet in hand. Sorry to interrupt, but we just hit our 100 millionth user. The auditorium erupted in applause. I waited for it to die down before asking, which country? India, Clara grinned. A girl in Mumbai. She's already streaming her first calculus lesson. Another hand shot up. Ms. Clara, is it true you visit your father in prison? Clara's smile softened. I do. He tutors other inmates now, helping them earn their GEDs. Turns out teaching runs in the family. My phone buzzed. Lucia, turn on the news now. I pulled up the feed on the auditorium's main screen just as the announcement broke. Department of Education partners with Global Learning Access to provide free tutoring nationwide. More applause, but I was watching Clara. Her eyes shined with tears as she watched our dream become national policy. That's enough questions about the past, I said, turning back to the students. Let's talk about your future. Who here wants to change the world? Every hand went up. Good, I nodded, because that's today's real lesson. Success isn't about revenge or money or power. It's about impact. Like how you helped Ms. Clara, someone called out. No, Clara answered before I could. Like how she helped everyone, including people who didn't deserve it. After the lecture, we walked through campus together. Students stopped to take selfies, sharing stories about how our app had helped them or their siblings or friends. Dad asked about you yesterday, Clara said as we reached my car. He's reading your book. The one about educational inequality? That must be interesting for him. He says it's opening his eyes. Actually, she hesitated. He wants to contribute a chapter to the next edition, about learning the hard way. I considered this. Tell him to write it. We'll see. Really? Her phone chimed. Another notification about our user metrics. That's surprisingly forgiving of you. Not forgiving, I corrected. Teaching, there's a difference. William was waiting in my office when we arrived. The Department of Education deal is just the beginning, he announced. 5 more countries want to partner with us. And the foundation? I asked. Fully restored, he confirmed. Mark's restitution cleared the last of the debt. Plus, he slid a newspaper across my desk. This came out this morning. The headline read, Prison Education Program Shows Promising Results. Former CEO Leads Initiative. Clara picked it up. Dad did this? With a little help, Ramona said, entering with Lucia. I've been consulting with the Prison Education Board. Your father's program is actually impressive. Turns out revenge isn't nearly as satisfying as reformation, I mused. Speaking of satisfaction, Lucia grinned, wait until you see what just happened to our stock price. But I was watching Clara read the article about her father, seeing the mix of pride and pain on her face. Money was never the point, I said quietly. No, she agreed, looking up. The point was learning, growing, changing. My phone lit up with another message. From Mark this time, his first direct contact since the guilty plea. Thank you for teaching me what really matters. I showed it to Clara, who smiled through tears. Should I tell him you're considering his chapter for the book? Tell him to focus on his students first, I said. The story can wait. William cleared his throat. The press is waiting downstairs. They want statements about the Department of Education partnership. Let them wait, I said, pulling up our app's interface. The number of active users ticked up in real time, each number representing a life potentially changed. I want to watch this for a minute. We all gathered around my desk, watching the numbers climb. Each digit represented a victory not just over ignorance, but over the idea that education belonged only to the privileged few. To think, Clara murmured, this all started because of a betrayal at an anniversary party. No, I corrected gently. It started long before that, with a teacher who believed education could change the world. I thought of my mother, of all the lessons she'd taught me. We just needed the right motivation to prove it. The numbers kept climbing, a testament to what happens when revenge gives way to something greater, something that could actually change the world, one lesson at a time. Ready for the press? William asked. I looked at my unlikely family, Clara, Lucia, William, Ramona, and smiled. Ready to change more lives? Always. Together, we headed downstairs to share our story. Not a story of revenge or betrayal, but of transformation, of learning, of hope. After all, that's what the best teachers do. They turn endings into beginnings.
Hi, I'm Olivia. At first, life was incredible. I had just been promoted to senior marketing manager at one of Seattle's top tech firms, and my husband, John, and I had finally saved enough for a down payment on our dream home. With John working as a software developer, our dual incomes gave us a comfortable lifestyle. We were the picture of a young, thriving professional couple living the dream. Then there was Karen. Karen, my mother-in-law, seemed sweet during my courtship with John. She brought homemade cookies to family gatherings and asked me about my career with what I thought was genuine interest. I should have noticed the glint in her eyes when John mentioned my promotion. Family is everything, she'd say at Sunday dinners, stirring her coffee with a knowing smile. We support each other, no matter what. The first red flag appeared at Easter dinner, 3 months after our wedding. John tells me you're making 6 figures now, sweetheart, Karen announced, her voice slicing through the chatter at the table. Everyone paused mid-bite. You know, your cousin Jessica is struggling with her student loans. Mom, we talked about this, John said, his voice faltering just enough to betray his discomfort. Karen wasn't fazed. I'm just saying we're family. When I was young, we all pitched in. Your Aunt Mary paid for my nursing degree. Her tone dripped with Oscar-worthy guilt. I kept my composure. We're saving for our future right now, but I can help Jessica with her loan applications if she'd like. The look Karen gave me could have curdled milk. That was just the beginning. After that, the subtle jabs started. Comments about how young couples today were so selfish, how real families shared everything, how she'd raised John to understand family obligations. At every gathering, Karen would corner me in the kitchen, recounting tales of relatives who abandoned the family by refusing to share their wealth. She began showing up unannounced at our house with sob stories about distant cousins and their financial woes. The breaking point came last week. Karen called a family meeting at her house. When John and I arrived, we found not just Karen, but all three of John's siblings and their spouses seated and solemn. "Olivia, dear," Karen began, holding a neatly typed sheet of paper. "I've calculated everyone's contributions to the family fund based on their incomes. Your monthly share would be $3,000. I stared at her, dumbfounded. "Excuse me?" "It's for the family emergency fund," she explained, her voice as sweet as syrup. "Everyone contributes based on their income." Then, with that sugar-coated smile, John's already agreed. I turned to John, but he couldn't meet my eyes. That's when I realized this wasn't just Karen meddling. It was her attempt to control our lives through money. The car ride home was painfully silent. John opened his mouth a few times as if to say something, but no words came out. Finally, he spoke. "Maybe Mom has a point about family obligations." I nearly swerved off the road. "Are you serious? $3,000 a month for a fund we've never even heard of?" "You don't understand," he said, his tone defensive. "This is how we've always done things. Mom managed all our finances growing up. She knows what she's doing." That was just the start. Within days, the whispers began. John's sister, Emma, called, her voice dripping with concern. "Everyone's worried about you, Olivia. Karen says you've been hoarding money while family members are struggling." At family gatherings, the shift was palpable. Relatives who once chatted warmly now avoided me. Conversations stopped abruptly when I entered the room. Karen had been busy spreading her narrative. "Did you know Olivia bought a designer purse while poor Jessica might lose her apartment?" I overheard Karen telling John's Aunt Beth at a barbecue. For the record, the designer purse was a $50 clearance find, and Jessica's apartment troubles were news to me. John grew more distant with each passing day. "Mom says you're tearing the family apart with your selfishness," he said one evening over dinner before retreating to his home office. But Karen had made a mistake. She'd grown too confident in her web of control. During one of her infamous kitchen corner ambushes, cousin Amy pulled me aside, her eyes darting nervously. "Be careful, Olivia," she whispered. "Karen did this to my mom years ago. Convinced her to hand over her inheritance for the family fund. Mom never saw a penny of it again." That revelation was my tipping point. I started dating, and what I uncovered painted a chilling picture. Uncle Pete's failed business, Karen had managed his startup funds. Aunt Sarah's mysterious debt that forced her to sell her house. Another case of Karen's financial help. A pattern emerged. Karen targeted successful family members, guilted them into contributing to her so-called family fund, and somehow the money always disappeared into nebulous emergencies no one could quite explain. Then came the final straw. Karen's emergency family intervention. We were all gathered in her living room, the air thick with tension. This time, she'd outdone herself, presenting a full PowerPoint of my supposed selfishness, complete with doctored receipts and fabricated luxury purchases. "We're here because we're worried about Olivia's impact on this family's unity," Karen declared, clicking through slides. John sat next to her, avoiding my gaze, his silence cutting deeper than any accusation. I stood, my hands steady but my voice sharp. "Before we continue, I have some questions about the family fund's previous distributions." Karen's confident demeanor flickered for the first time. "That's not relevant, though." "Actually, it is." I turned to Uncle Pete. "Would you like to share what happened to your startup investment?" The room erupted into chaos. Karen screeched about disloyalty, while John tried to hush me, but the damage was done. I saw it, a spark of recognition in several family members' eyes. The first crack in Karen's carefully constructed facade. And I wasn't done yet. Amy's tip about her mom's inheritance had been just the beginning. I hired a private investigator, the best $3,000 I'd ever spent. What I uncovered was staggering. Karen's family fund was a black hole of debt and deceit. Maxed out credit cards, remortgaged houses, and personal loans taken out in various family members' names. She told my mom that money went to cousin David's medical bills, Amy whispered one night, her hands trembling as we pored over the documents on my kitchen table. David never had surgery. I started a group chat, carefully adding family members I suspected were Karen's victims. The stories poured in. She convinced me to co-sign a loan for her investment property. Aunt Sarah revealed. There was no property. My business didn't fail, Uncle Pete confessed. She drained the accounts she managed for me. Meanwhile, Karen escalated her harassment. She began showing up at my office, cornering me in the parking lot. "You ungrateful little snake," she hissed one morning, her face twisted with rage. "I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are." I recorded everything. When John stumbled upon my investigation files, his reaction was explosive. Not at Karen, but at me. "How dare you investigate my mother?" he shouted. "She's done everything for this family. She's stealing from everyone, John. Look at the evidence." "I want a divorce," he said coldly. "Mom was right. You were never really family." I didn't cry. Something inside me had been bracing for this moment. "Okay, John. But before you go, you might want to check your credit report. Your mom opened 3 cards in your name last year." He called me a liar and stormed out, straight to Karen's house, of course. But I wasn't done. At a company charity gala, Karen made her boldest move yet, crashing the event and telling my CEO that I'd been embezzling family money. I let her talk. Then, during my scheduled presentation, I stepped up to the podium. "Since we're discussing financial responsibility," I began, clicking to my first slide, "let's talk about the real numbers." The screen filled with evidence: Karen's debt schemes, forged signatures, fraudulent loans. Videos of her threats played on a loop. "You're ruining my family," Karen shrieked, lunging for the podium. Security held her back as she spiraled into a tirade about ungrateful children and family loyalty. In the stunned silence that followed, 3 of my coworkers came forward, admitting Karen had contacted them too, trying to spread her lies. Phase 1 of Karen's takedown was complete. The real reckoning came at the Thompson family reunion. Normally a potluck filled with forced smiles, this year I brought receipts, literally. Before we start the usual festivities, I announced, standing at the front of the community center, "We need to discuss what happened to the family fund." Karen's face turned ashen as I projected bank statements, loan documents, and credit reports onto the screen. Years of her financial abuse laid bare in black and white. The room fell silent as I walked through each scheme. Jessica's non-existent student loans, David's fake medical bills, Amy's mom's stolen inheritance. That money was meant for family emergencies. Karen tried to interject, but Aunt Sarah was the first to rise. "Like the emergency where you took my house down payment and blamed it on bad investments." Her voice shook with restrained anger. "I lost my dream home because of you, Karen." The room was silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy. Then Uncle Pete stood. "My business didn't fail because of me. It was because you drained the accounts I trusted you to manage." Cousin David was next, his face pale. "What surgery? I never had surgery. You told everyone I needed money for medical bills." One by one, they stood, each revelation hitting like a thunderbolt. Years of Karen's manipulation unraveled in mere minutes, each new betrayal stripping her power away. "You all agreed to help." Karen's voice rose hysterically, her composure slipping. "Tell them, John. Tell them how this family works." But John wasn't defending her this time. He was staring at the credit report in his hands, his face ashen. It showed $87,000 in loans he'd never taken out, each one bearing his mother's perfectly forged signature. "Mom, how could you?" His voice was barely a whisper. Karen's face twisted, her mask finally cracking. "Everything I did was for this family," she shrieked, lunging for the laptop and knocking over chairs in the process. "You're all ungrateful. I controlled this family for 30 years. The room went silent, her unintentional confession echoing. Karen froze, realizing what she just admitted. The fallout was swift and spectacular. Within hours, 3 families contacted lawyers. John, finally confronting reality, discovered that his savings had been drained. His mother had secretly accessed his accounts. He'd lost everything enabling her schemes. "Olivia." John approached me after the chaos, looking hollow and broken. I should have listened. "Yes, you should have," I said. I felt no satisfaction, just relief. "Good luck with the credit fraud charges." Karen's empire crumbled in weeks. Family members cut contact entirely. Her church asked her to step down from the charity board. Her country club friends abandoned her once her schemes came to light. Last I heard, she downsized to a small apartment, her assets frozen pending investigation. As for me, that promotion I mentioned at the beginning of this story turned into a full executive position. My CEO said, "Anyone who can handle a crisis like that deserves a spot in upper management." I sold the house John and I had planned to share and bought a sleek downtown condo just for me. Amy and several cousins are regular dinner guests now. Our bonds have grown stronger without Karen's toxicity. Sometimes healing means burning bridges and building new ones. The divorce papers came through last week. John tried one last time. We could start over, he texted. I left him on read. Instead, I took myself to Hawaii. The ocean view from my hotel room is stunning, and the Mai Tai I'm sipping tastes like freedom. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about breaking free and thriving on your own terms. After all, family is everything, right, Karen? What would you have done if you were John? Would you stand by a manipulative parent who opened credit cards in your name and drained your savings, or support a spouse who uncovered the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about family loyalty versus protecting yourself from toxic manipulation. Would you ever give someone like Karen a second chance? If you enjoyed this story of financial manipulation and sweet revenge, consider subscribing for more real-life drama and satisfying karma. Don't forget to hit that like button and turn on notifications so you never miss an installment of Family Karma Served Cold. Hi, I'm Jessica. What I'm about to share still makes my blood boil, even months later. It should have been the happiest day of my life, welcoming my beautiful son into the world. Instead, my sister-in-law, Sarah, turned it into a nightmare so surreal it ended with her in handcuffs. Let me start at the beginning. My husband, Mike, and I had been trying for a baby for 2 long years when we finally got the news we'd been praying for. I was pregnant. Overcome with joy, we announced it at a family dinner. The moment felt magical until my brother James and his wife, Sarah, shared that they, too, were expecting. She was 2 months behind me. At first, it seemed perfect. 2 cousins growing up together, sharing milestones. How wonderful, my mother-in-law Linda gushed. Both my babies having babies. She cried happy tears, embracing us and dreaming up joint baby showers and matching nurseries. But the harmony didn't last. It started with small, cutting comments during the prenatal yoga classes Sarah and I attended together. I just know I'm having a boy, she'd say. The family needs a male here. Or it's probably best if you have a girl first, Jessica. You know, to take the pressure off. When my 20-week scan revealed we were having a boy, Sarah's mask slipped. She stopped attending yoga, blocked me on social media, and whispered to family members that I was rubbing my pregnancy in her face. Just ignore her, Mike said, massaging my shoulders. She's probably just hormonal. James tried to smooth things over. Sarah's nervous about her scan next week. You know how she gets when she's stressed. But her behavior only escalated. At my baby shower, she hijacked the moment by dramatically announcing her pregnancy was high risk, it wasn't, and dissolving into tears. Everyone rushed to comfort her. Later, she tried convincing Linda to return the gifts she'd bought for my son, arguing, we should wait to see what I'm having first. The breaking point came on the day I went into labor. Mike and I had just checked into the maternity ward when Sarah showed up, claiming she was there for a routine checkup. Before we could question her, she followed us into the labor room as I changed into a gown. Her voice was cold, venomous. You don't deserve this, she hissed. You got pregnant first just to steal my moment, and with a boy, no less. Before Mike could react, Sarah shoved me hard. I stumbled backward, crashing into a full-length mirror. The glass shattered, shards raining down as a sharp pain seared through my back. The last thing I saw before the nurses rushed in was Sarah's face, not regretful, but smug, satisfied. That shove didn't just break a mirror, it shattered any chance of us ever being family again. But Sarah was about to learn that karma hits back harder than any shove she could deliver. The next few hours were chaos. Glass fragments had cut into my back and arms. But the real danger was to my baby. The doctors were on high alert, monitoring for signs of placental abruption. Their tense faces hovered over me as they checked the fetal heartbeat monitor again and again. She just tripped. Sarah's voice screeched from the hallway where security was restraining her. I tried to catch her. Jessica's always been clumsy. Tell them, James. Mike's voice thundered over hers. There are witnesses. The whole thing is on camera. You could have killed our son. The maternity ward was a whirlwind of activity. Nurses rushing between rooms, security guards stationed at my door, Linda's anguished cries echoing down the hall. "How could you, Sarah? How could you?" Detective Chin, a calm and kind police officer, arrived to take my statement between contractions. "Take your time, Mrs. Martinez," he said gently. "We have security footage and multiple witnesses who saw Mrs. Williams follow you into the room." "I want to press charges," I managed to say through gritted teeth as another contraction hit. Mike squeezed my hand, his face a mix of worry and fury. Moments later, James appeared in the doorway, pale and shaken. "Jessica, I'm so sorry," he murmured. But sorry wasn't enough. Sarah's actions had changed everything. I had no idea Sarah was capable of such cruelty. She's telling everyone it was an accident, but I've seen the footage. I don't even recognize the person she's become. The hours following the incident were a blur. The stress had complicated my labor, and the doctors were discussing the possibility of an emergency C-section. Through it all, Sarah's dramatic sobs echoed from somewhere in the hospital. She was telling anyone who would listen that she was the real victim, insisting the stress might harm her baby. After what felt like an eternity, my son finally arrived, perfect and healthy, despite everything. But even this pure, joyous moment was overshadowed. Instead of peaceful bonding, our first hours as a family were interrupted by hospital administrators documenting my injuries. Police officers taking statements and family members coming in and out, teary-eyed and distraught. "The district attorney will definitely want to pursue this," Detective Chen informed us as I nursed my newborn. "Assault on a pregnant woman is a serious offense. Given the security footage and witness statements, Mrs. Williams is looking at significant charges." By then, Sarah had been removed from the hospital, but her flying monkeys were already at work. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from distant relatives. "Family should forgive family. Think of Sarah's baby. You're being dramatic." Mike finally snatched the phone from my hands, his jaw tight with anger. "The only people you need to focus on are yourself and our son," he said firmly. "Let the police handle Sarah." As I cradled my beautiful baby boy, watching him sleep peacefully despite the chaos around us, I made a vow. Sarah hadn't just attacked me, she'd risked my child's life. No amount of family pressure or crocodile tears would make me back down. She was about to learn that some bridges, once burned, light the way to justice. A week after bringing our son home, Mike and I sat in the hospital administrator's office, watching the security footage. The video left no room for Sarah's claims of an accident. Multiple camera angles showed her following us, pacing outside our room, and then deliberately shoving me into the mirror. When nurses rushed in, she even tried to block the door. "The hospital is filing separate charges," the administrator informed us. "This kind of violence in our maternity ward is unacceptable." We've also had 3 nurses come forward about Mrs. Williams' aggressive behavior during her prenatal visits. As the truth unraveled, more stories emerged. Cousin Linda revealed that Sarah had destroyed her wedding dress years ago after discovering they'd chosen the same designer. Mike's sister, Emma, admitted Sarah had once pushed her at a family pool party, claiming Emma had slipped. Even Linda, my mother-in-law, finally confessed to witnessing Sarah deliberately trip a coworker at last year's Christmas party out of jealousy. "We all kept quiet to keep the peace," Linda sobbed, guilt-stricken. "I enabled her by staying silent. I'm so sorry, Jessica." The pressure to drop charges was relentless. Daily calls from family members urged us to forgive. "Think of the baby shower we planned," they said. "James is heartbroken. She's pregnant. You can't send her to jail." Then came the so-called family dinner, organized by Linda to heal. The tension was palpable, with everyone walking on eggshells, until Sarah arrived, her tone dripping with venom. "I've apologized," she sneered. "Jessica's just jealous because my baby shower will be bigger. She's using this accident to turn everyone against me, and now my baby might have complications from all this stress." The room fell silent. Finally, James spoke. "Sarah, stop." His voice was low but steady. "I've seen the footage. You followed her. You pushed her. You smiled about it. You're taking her side? After everything I've done for this family?" Sarah shrieked, her mask slipping entirely. In a sudden fit of rage, she grabbed Linda's prized crystal vase, a cherished family heirloom, and hurled it at the wall near my head. Gasps filled the room as shards rained down. Then she started grabbing anything within reach, throwing it with wild abandon. "I deserve that baby boy," she screamed. She stole everything. My moment, my son, my family. James intercepted her just as she reached for a heavy photo frame, grabbing her wrist. His expression was a mix of heartbreak and clarity. "Security cameras don't lie, Sarah," he said quietly. "Neither does this meltdown. I want a divorce." Sarah's scream echoed through the house as family members led her away, her protests and sobs fading into the distance. James stayed behind, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "I should have seen it sooner, Jessica," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "The signs were all there. I just didn't want to believe the person I married could be so cruel." The aftermath was devastating. Broken crystal, shattered photos, fractured relationships. It was a mess, both literally and figuratively. But in that moment, I realized something important. Sometimes it takes a complete breakdown for the truth to break through. 3 months later, as my son reached another milestone, the court date arrived. Sarah showed up playing the perfect victim, dressed modestly, cradling her baby bump, and shedding well-timed tears. But her performance crumbled under the weight of evidence: security footage, witness statements, hospital records, and photos of my injuries. The defendant showed premeditation by following the victim, the prosecutor stated. She deliberately assaulted a woman in active labor, showing complete disregard for 2 lives. But the legal consequences were only the beginning. In our tight-knit community, news spread fast. Sarah's carefully curated image of the perfect wife and expectant mother crumbled almost overnight. Her interior design clients quietly dropped her, unwilling to let someone so volatile into their homes. Her sponsors for her mommy blogger persona pulled out, and her once flawless social media empire imploded as the truth surfaced. James wasted no time filing for divorce. Despite Sarah's tearful manipulation attempts, he remained resolute. "I'm not letting my child grow up thinking this behavior is normal," he told me one afternoon, watching my son cooing on his baby mat. "I'll co-parent with her, but that's it." Linda transformed our old playroom into a nursery, helping care for my son while I recovered. One evening, as she rocked him to sleep, she whispered, "I should have protected you better, but I promise both my grandbabies will grow up in a healthier environment now." Meanwhile, my brother moved back in with Mom temporarily, starting therapy to process everything. It was during one of these sessions that Sarah's family finally admitted she'd had similar incidents growing up. Aggressive outbursts and manipulative tactics they dismissed as a strong personality. They took over managing her prenatal care and kept her away from our side of the family entirely. The experience changed us all. Mike and I reinforced our boundaries, choosing carefully who we allowed into our son's life. James dedicated himself to single fatherhood, determined to break the cycle of toxicity. Linda, once the family peacemaker, found her voice and stopped tolerating bad behavior in the name of harmony. 6 months after the incident, we celebrated my son's first Christmas. Our family circle was smaller now, but it felt stronger than ever. As I looked around the room, I felt a deep sense of peace. My baby boy was thriving, surrounded by people who genuinely loved him. James was healing, preparing to co-parent with clear boundaries. Even Linda seemed lighter, no longer walking on eggshells to maintain false peace. Sarah's actions, intended to shatter us, had instead revealed the cracks that needed mending. They forced us to rebuild on stronger foundations. As I watched my son giggle in his uncle's arms, I knew we'd made the right choices. Some might call it karma, but to me it was justice, letting natural consequences unfold while focusing on healing and growth. Sometimes a happy ending isn't about revenge. It's about rebuilding, setting boundaries, and choosing peace over toxic relationships. My son will grow up knowing that love doesn't hurt. Family isn't about power plays, and it's okay, even necessary, to walk away from people who try to dim your light. Your turn. What would you do if you discovered your sister-in-law had been sabotaging other family members for years, not just you? Sarah's behavior wasn't new. She had hurt multiple people, from destroying Linda's wedding dress to pushing Emma at the pool. Yet everyone stayed quiet to keep the peace. Do you think the family was partly responsible for enabling her by staying silent? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Amy. 3 years ago, I married James Peterson, convinced I found my happily ever after. He was charming, successful, and seemed to put our relationship first. Sure, he had an ex-wife, Amanda, but that's normal at our age, right? What wasn't normal was how his friends still treated her like a permanent member of the group. "Babe, they were friends with her first," James would say whenever I brought it up. I tried to be understanding. Really, I did. I even endured their monthly game nights, where Amanda would hold court, reminiscing about the good old days while I sat there feeling like a stranger. But today was supposed to be different, special. My sister Anna had just gotten engaged to Mike, the sweetest lawyer you'll ever meet. And I had my own news. I was 8 weeks pregnant. We planned a big family dinner to celebrate both milestones. Everyone was coming, my parents, Anna and Mike. Even James's parents were flying in. 3 hours before dinner, I got a text from James. "Emergency at work, honey. Johnson accounts falling apart. Rain check." I stared at my phone in disbelief as Anna helped me set the table. "He's bailing today." "Of all days?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Anna paused, her engagement ring catching alight. She grabbed my phone. "Something's not right, Amy." I tried calling James, but it went straight to voicemail. I sent more texts. Nothing. Then Mike walked in, his expression uneasy. "You need to see this," he said, pulling out his phone. There it was, a fresh Instagram post from Tommy, James's best friend. The photo showed my husband at Litig Bistro, our special date night spot, with his arm around Amanda. The caption, "Celebrating Amanda's birthday." Anna's eyes narrowed, her fists clenched. "I'm going to kill him," she hissed. Mike placed a calming hand on her shoulder. "No, we're going to be smart about this," he said, his lawyer instincts kicking in. "Document everything. Screenshots, timestamps, witnesses. Emmy, how much do you know about your joint accounts?" The room spun. All those work emergencies James had over the past year replayed in my mind like a highlight reel of red flags. Anna pulled me into a tight hug. "Change of plans," she said firmly. "We're still having dinner, but now it's a strategy session. Nobody messes with my sister." My phone buzzed again. Another Instagram notification. This time, Amanda had posted, "Best birthday ever with my forever friend." Some people just get you. James's smile in the photo was the same one he wore at our wedding. I stood up straighter, one hand on my still flat stomach. "You know what?" I said. "Anna's right. Let's have dinner. I'm done being the understanding wife. If James wants to play games, he's about to learn I'm not the pushover he thinks I am." Mike nodded approvingly. "And you've got the best legal mind in the city on your side. Pro bono." For the first time all day, I felt a flicker of strength. James had chosen his ex-wife's birthday over our family celebration. Fine, but choices have consequences. The family dinner transformed into a war council. Anna and Mike stayed late, helping me piece together a timeline of James's work emergencies. A disturbing pattern emerged. Every one of his absences coincided with social media posts from Amanda's inner circle. "Start with the phone records," Mike suggested, handing me a glass of water instead of the wine I desperately wanted. "As your lawyer, I advise full documentation." I logged into our phone carrier account, something I hadn't done in months. The evidence hit me like a punch to the gut. Hundreds of texts and calls to Amanda, some lasting hours, most during his supposed late nights at the office. "I need air," I muttered, stepping onto the balcony. As I leaned on the railing, I spotted Tom, one of James's coworkers, pacing in the parking lot below. He looked up, caught sight of me, and gestured urgently. "I'll go with you," Anna insisted, but I waved Anna off. I needed to handle this myself. Tom, James's most reliable and morally upright friend, was pacing nervously in the parking lot. "Amy, I can't keep quiet anymore," Tom blurted as soon as I reached him. His hands trembled as he pulled out his phone. "James has been moving money around. He asked me to help him hide some transfers from you, said it was for a surprise anniversary gift. But I saw the accounts today. He's been funneling money to Amanda for months." My legs wobbled as I leaned against the railing. "How much?" "Almost $40,000, Tom confessed. She's trying to start a business, and James is secretly backing it." Back upstairs, I showed Mike the evidence. His expression darkened as he scrolled through Tom's phone. "This changes everything," Mike said, his tone icy. "He's misappropriating marital assets. Emmy, I hate to ask, but—" "Document everything," I interrupted, my voice firmer than I expected. "Every lie, every dollar, every betrayal." As if on cue, James walked in, A casual smile plastered on his face. "Oh, still having family time," he quipped, but his eyes darted nervously to Mike and Anna. "Sorry about earlier, honey. The Johnson account was at Lite Bistro," I finished coldly. Funny, it looked more like Amanda's birthday party. James's face darkened. "You're spying on me now? This is exactly why I needed space. You're so clingy, so desperate to control everything. And Amanda understands," I shot back. "How to spend $40,000 of our money." The color drained from his face, only to be replaced by a furious red. "You've been going through my private accounts? That's illegal." He turned to Mike. "You're a lawyer. Tell her she can't." "Community property state," Mike cut in coolly. "Joint accounts. Want to try again?" James shifted tactics, his voice softening. "Baby, you're overreacting. Amanda needed help with her dream, and I—" "What about my dreams, James?" I snapped. "What about our family?" My hand instinctively moved to my stomach, but I stopped short. He didn't deserve to know. Not anymore. "If you paid more attention to me instead of obsessing over Amanda." Anna stepped forward, but I held up a hand. "No, let him finish. I want to hear exactly how this is my fault." James sputtered, his anger dissolving into frustration. Finally, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Seconds later, my phone buzzed with a text. "You're making a big mistake. I can explain everything." "Forward that to me," Mike said quietly. He glanced up at me. "Amy, tomorrow we go nuclear." The next morning, Mike's law office became our war room. Anna brought coffee while I forwarded every email, text, and bank statement I could find. The deeper we dug, the worse it got. "James didn't just funnel $40,000, Mike said grimly, scrolling through bank records. "He's drained almost $90,000 from your joint savings account, small transfers to different LLCs. But they all trace back to Amanda's new business venture." My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. "Amy, this is David, Amanda's husband. We need to talk." 20 minutes later, David sat across from us, his face pale and drawn. "I found the business plans on Amanda's laptop," he admitted. "She's opening a chain of boutique fitness studios, with James as her silent partner. They've been planning this for over a year." "Did you know about their relationship?" I asked quietly. David hesitated. "I suspected something. But what I didn't know was that they're planning to announce their partnership at the Children's Hospital Charity Gala next week. Amanda's on the planning committee. James is bringing his business partners to secure more funding." Anna leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "The same partners who don't know he's been diverting personal funds." "Exactly." David's smile was thin and sharp. "I have tickets, so does half of corporate Atlanta." Mike's fingers flew across his keyboard. "Amy, how would you feel about making a presentation of your own?" The gala was everything you'd expect. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and enough diamonds to rival a jewelry store. I spotted James immediately, charming his business partners with Amanda glued to his side. "Ready?" Anna whispered, squeezing my hand. I nodded and glanced at David, who was stationed at the audiovisual booth. As Amanda took the stage, he gave me a thumbs up. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Amanda gushed, her smile dazzling. "I'm especially excited to announce a new business venture that will revolutionize the fitness industry in Atlanta, with the backing of an amazing investor." The screen behind her flickered. Instead of her glossy presentation, bank statements, text messages, and photos of secret meetings filled the screen. Every bit of evidence meticulously documented. "What is this?" one of James's partners demanded, standing abruptly. "James, isn't that your company's investment account?" James lunged for the podium, panic etched on his face. "This is a mistake." "No," I said, stepping forward and speaking clearly into a microphone. "The mistake was stealing from our marriage to fund your affair." The room erupted. Amanda's face crumpled as her mascara streaked down her cheeks. James's business partners huddled together. Phones were out, faces furious, and through it all, the evidence continued scrolling on the screen. "Mrs. Peterson," James's senior partner approached me, his expression grim but professional. "We'd like to discuss this further, privately, of course." I smiled calmly. My lawyer has all the documentation ready. As security escorted James and Amanda out, Anna pulled me into a tight hug. "You did it." The aftermath of the gala was swift and spectacular. By the next morning, James's partners called an emergency board meeting. By noon, he was suspended, pending investigation. By evening, his company shares were frozen. "The divorce papers are ready," Mike said a few days later, sliding a stack of documents across his desk. "And given the evidence of financial misconduct, we're in a strong position." "What about Amanda?" Anna asked, handing me my now regular ginger tea for morning sickness. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a news notification. Amanda's fitness studio investors had pulled out. David had filed for divorce, and her society friends were quickly distancing themselves. Her Instagram, once a carefully curated gallery of her life, had vanished, replaced by frantic, private messages begging for understanding. Later, James's voice message played. "Amy, please. We can work this out. I'll pay back every cent. I'll get therapy. Don't do this to us." I deleted it without hesitation. Instead, I opened my family group chat. "Dinner at my place tonight. I have news to share, properly this time." The dining room felt different now. No more photos of James and me. No souvenirs from our trips. Just fresh flowers, soft lighting, and the warm sounds of my family arriving. 3 months later, the divorce was final. James' reputation was in ruins. No company would touch him after the financial scandal. He ended up taking a low-level job in another state. Amanda's studios never opened, and her divorce left her with nothing but regrets. As for me, I'm sitting in my new nursery, the walls painted a soft yellow, my choice, not James's. Anna is fussing over my baby bump, already planning to spoil her future niece or nephew. My real estate business is thriving, partly thanks to James's former partners who now prefer working with me. And James and Amanda. They tried dating officially, but it lasted only 2 weeks before they turned on each other, blaming one another for their downfall. It turns out their perfect understanding couldn't survive reality. I've stopped thinking about them. I'm too busy being happy. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's living your best life while karma does its work. What would you do if you discovered your spouse spent $90,000 of your joint savings to fund their ex's business? Would you expose them publicly like Amy or handle it quietly? If you enjoyed Amy's journey from betrayal to triumph, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama and revenge stories. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. Hi, I'm Amanda. 3 years ago, my life flipped upside down when Dad died suddenly. Everything changed after that. Mom was drowning in grief when Greg came along. He presented himself as the savior we didn't know we needed. Calm, collected, and financially savvy. At first, it felt like he was pulling us back from the brink. But it didn't take long for his helpful advice to morph into suffocating control. Now, our house feels like a perpetual twilight zone because Greg insists on minimal lighting to cut costs. Even our landlord, Mr. Thompson, gives us strange looks during inspections, especially after catching Greg unscrewing hallway light bulbs to shave pennies off the bill. Mom, Linda, used to be vibrant, decisive. These days, she's a shadow of herself, agonizing over every dollar spent. Adding to the misery is Greg's mother, Barbara, who has practically taken up permanent residence on our couch. She's Greg's biggest fan, clapping for every absurd cost-cutting stunt. "Look how clever my Greg is," she gushes as he fishes used tea bags out of the trash. 5 uses minimum, that's how you save real money. Greg's obsession goes beyond frugality. It's pathological. Appliances stay unplugged unless in use. The hot water heater is set so low that showers feel like punishment. My best friend Kate stopped visiting after Greg implemented a toilet paper rule, 1 square per use. And don't forget, guests must bring their own. "We're not running a charity here," Greg would bark. "Every penny saved is a penny earned." Barbara always backed him up. Young people today just don't understand the value of money. Last week, during another icy 3-minute shower, timed of course, a sharp pain stabbed through my lower right side. I thought I could brush it off, but by evening I was doubled over, trembling with fever. "Mom," I called weakly from the bathroom. "Something's really wrong. I think I need to go to the hospital." Greg appeared in the doorway before Mom could respond, Barbara trailing behind him like a shadow. "Hospital," he snapped. Do you have any idea what emergency rooms charge? It's probably just gas. But look at her. Mom protested, her voice wavering. She's white as a sheet. Linda, don't coddle her, Barbara scolded. In my day, we didn't run to the doctor for every little stomachache. Ambulances cost thousands, Greg barked, pacing the hallway. You want to throw away months of careful saving for this? She just needs to toughen up. The room spun around me. I clutched the sink, trying to stay upright, but my legs gave out. As I crumpled to the floor, Mom's panicked voice broke through. I'm calling an ambulance, he said, reaching for her phone. Don't you dare, Greg warned, snatching it from her hand. I won't pay for. Darkness swallowed me before he could finish. When I came to, I was sprawled on the cold bathroom tiles, Mom kneeling beside me. Her trembling hands hovered over her phone, her face pale with fear. She needs help, Mom said, standing shakily to face Greg. Barbara inserted herself, her voice sharp. Linda, you're being hysterical. Back in my day, I gave my Greg ginger ale for stomach pains, saved hundreds in medical bills. You should try that. This is different, Mom shouted, moving toward the door. If you won't let me call an ambulance, I'll drive her myself. Greg laughed, the sound cruel and triumphant. Oh really? Looking for these? He dangled the car keys before shoving them into his pocket. I've hidden the spare set too. Nobody's going anywhere until she stops this attention-seeking act. Right, Mother? Absolutely right, dear, Barbara chimed in. A little rest and a cold compress will fix her right up. Through the haze of pain, I tried to speak, to tell them how much worse it was getting. But all that came out was a strangled gasp. I could only manage a weak moan. The bathroom tiles seemed to spin beneath me, and despite the cold floor, my skin burned like fire. She's getting worse, Mom's voice cracked with fear. Please, Greg, she needs help. What she needs is a lesson in financial responsibility, Greg roared, his face twisting with fury. Every hospital visit is hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Do you want us to end up in the poorhouse? Barbara chimed in, pressing a damp cloth to my forehead, which felt like sandpaper against my burning skin. Nobody believes in home remedies anymore, she lamented. Young people today run to doctors for every sniffle and ache. The front door creaked open, interrupting Barbara's lecture. Hello, is anyone here? A familiar voice called out. The door was ajar. Movie night, remember. Sorry I'm early, but I brought popcorn. Kate stopped mid-sentence as her eyes landed on me. Oh my God, Amanda. She dropped her bags and rushed to my side, her hand brushing my forehead. She yanked it back instantly. She's burning up. What's going on? Why hasn't anyone called an ambulance? Now listen here, Greg growled, stepping toward her, his face red with anger. This is a family matter. We don't need outsiders interfering with our financial decisions. Financial decisions? Kate's voice dripped with disbelief as she glanced between Greg, Barbara, and my terrified mother. Realization dawned on her face. Without another word, Kate pulled out her phone. Don't you dare. Greg lunged for it. Do you know what the deductible is for emergency services? $5,000. I won't let you bankrupt this family with unnecessary medical bills. Unnecessary? Kate's voice turned ice cold as she dialed 911. She's barely conscious, Greg, Kate snapped, holding the phone to her ear. Barbara wrung her hands dramatically. In my day, people die from appendicitis rather than bankrupt their families, Kate retorted, already giving the dispatcher our address. Greg's face turned purple as he screamed, You'll be responsible for the deductible, every penny of it. $5,000. Do you hear me? 5. But Kate wasn't listening. Mom broke down in tears of relief as the sound of approaching sirens pierced the night air. Greg spun around, panic etched on his face. Who called them? Who called them? He pointed an accusing finger at Kate. You had no right. The ambulance screeched to a halt outside, and Greg rushed to block the front door with Barbara trailing behind him. No one called for medical help here, Barbara shouted through the door. My son handles all family health decisions. Ma'am, a paramedic's firm voice answered from the other side. We received an emergency call. Step aside, or we'll have to involve the police. Barbara threw open the window, shouting to the gathering neighbors, Nothing to see here. Just another young person seeking attention. In my day, we dealt with illness at home, like sensible people. Mrs. Peterson from next door recorded the chaos on her phone, and more neighbors gathered, whispering and pointing. "Sir, move away from the door," a second paramedic warned, radio in hand. "We have a report of a critical patient." Mr. Thompson, our landlord, suddenly appeared behind the paramedics. "I'm the property owner," he said firmly. "You have my full permission to enter." With that, the paramedics pushed past Greg and Barbara, rushing to my side. Their faces turned grim as they checked my vitals. "Temperature is dangerously high," one of them said. "Severe abdominal rigidity, possible peritonitis." The ride to the hospital was a blur of sirens and voices. Greg and Barbara followed in their car, calling everyone they knew to complain about wasteful medical expenses. In the emergency room, the doctor's face darkened after examining me. "She has a burst appendix," she said gravely. "The infection is spreading. We need to operate immediately, or she won't survive." "Surgery," Greg exploded. "Do you have any idea what that costs? Just give her some antibiotics." "Sir," the doctor's voice was like steel. "Without immediate intervention, your stepdaughter could die." "Die?" Barbara scoffed. "Doctors always exaggerate to run up bills. In my day." "I've seen enough," Mr. Thompson interrupted, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling the police. I witnessed everything from blocking medical access to delaying critical care." Greg's face went pale. "You can't prove anything. This is all a setup to force us into debt." "Actually," Kate interjected, holding up her phone, "I can prove everything, from when you hid the car keys to when you blocked the paramedics. It's all recorded." 2 police officers entered the ER as the medical team prepped me for surgery. "Mr. Watson, Mrs. Watson," one officer said sternly, "we need to ask you some questions about deliberately preventing medical care for a critical patient." "This is harassment," Barbara shrieked. My Greg was protecting his family from medical debt. The last thing I heard before being wheeled into surgery was Kate telling the officers, "I have recordings of everything. Every single thing." 2 weeks after my surgery, the truth about Greg and Barbara came crashing down like a house of cards. The hospital social worker, Miss Martinez, had been quietly building a case, documenting everything from the night I was admitted. "This isn't their first time," she told Mom, spreading a series of files across her desk. "We've identified 3 other families in the area. Same pattern. Greg marries a vulnerable single parent, then denies medical care to the children, always citing financial reasons." Mom sat frozen, her hands shaking as she sifted through insurance documents. He canceled our health insurance 4 months ago," she whispered. "He said the premiums went up, but really," her voice broke. Miss Martinez nodded grimly. "He pocketed the premium money. But that's not all. That's when we discovered Greg's secret savings account. While I lay in agony on the bathroom floor, listening to him rant about ambulance costs, he had over $50,000 stashed away. Money he'd hoarded by denying us basic necessities, canceling insurance, and imposing his cruel penny-pinching regime. "I want a divorce," Mom announced, her voice steady and stronger than I'd heard in years. "And I'm pressing charges." The police investigation moved swiftly. Other victims came forward, previous stepchildren who'd suffered at Greg's hands. One girl had nearly lost her leg to an untreated infection. A boy had permanent damage from a delayed appendix surgery eerily similar to what Greg tried to do to me. Barbara's shrieking about ungrateful families at the courthouse did nothing to help their case. Greg's attempts to justify his actions as teaching financial responsibility fell flat, especially when Kate's recordings, Mrs. Peterson's videos, and witness testimonies painted a damning picture. The community rallied around us. Mr. Thompson organized a fundraiser to help cover my medical bills. Neighbors who had witnessed everything that night gave their statements to investigators. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge's verdict was swift. Greg was convicted of criminal endangerment and insurance fraud. Barbara, charged as an accomplice, faced penalties for actively preventing medical care and enabling Greg's abuse. Both were ordered to pay restitution. "In my years on the bench," the judge declared, "I've rarely seen such calculated cruelty disguised as financial prudence." Greg's precious savings were drained to compensate his victims, leaving him and Barbara penniless. Their reputations were shattered. Barbara's endless social media rants about being persecuted only backfired as former victims flooded the comments with their own stories. Today, our home feels light again. Mom's smile has returned, and the house is warm, well-lit and full of life. Kate visits often, bringing takeout and laughter. Mr. Thompson even hired Mom to manage tenant relations, saying she had a sharp eye for spotting red flags. As for me, I'm healing well. The community has grown closer and more vigilant, ensuring no one else falls prey to people like Greg and Barbara. And Greg and Barbara. Last we heard, they're living in a cheap motel, still preaching about financial responsibility to anyone who will listen. But no one's buying their act anymore. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. And that's exactly what we did. Discussion. Do enablers deserve harsher punishment? Barbara's role in this story raises an important question. Are enablers as culpable, or perhaps more dangerous, than the abusers they defend? By normalizing Greg's actions and actively supporting his cruelty, Barbara perpetuated harm and silenced those who might have spoken out sooner. While Greg was the architect of the abuse, Barbara played a vital role in ensuring his behavior seemed normal to the family and others. This normalization can make abuse harder to recognize and resist, potentially leading to greater and more prolonged harm. What do you think? Should enablers face harsher punishment than the abusers themselves? Or does their accountability depend on the extent of their complicity? Hi everyone, I'm Amanda, a 29-year-old marketing executive living in Chicago. Trust me, the wedding drama is just the beginning of my family's theatrics. You're just like your mother, always needing to do things your own way. Grandma Eleanor snapped, her words laced with her signature disapproval. It's a refrain I've heard my entire life. Grandma has been my guardian since I lost my parents in a car accident when I was 8, and while I'm grateful to her, she's turned every family gathering into her personal theater of control. Have you thought about joining the Ladies' Society? She pressed during our weekly family dinner. Rebecca's already on the board, and she's younger than you. I'm focused on my career right now, Grandma. I replied, keeping my tone even. Career? She scoffed. In my day, family came first. Your cousin Rebecca understands that. Perfect Rebecca, sitting smugly across the table, offered a polite smile. The society's hosting a charity gala next month. You should come, Amanda. Maybe bring Marcus. Marcus, my fiancé, gave my hand a reassuring squeeze under the table. We'd only announced our engagement last month, and already Grandma was trying to orchestrate every detail. Speaking of details, Aunt Patricia, Grandma's ever-loyal shadow, piped up. Have you set a date yet? The country club books up quickly, and Eleanor's been a member for 40 years. Actually, I started. We're thinking of having it at the Modern downtown. Grandma's teacup clattered against its saucer. The Modern? She repeated, aghast. No granddaughter of mine is getting married in some trendy venue. We've had every family wedding at the club since 1952. Uncle David peeked up from his newspaper, the only voice of reason. Eleanor, maybe let them. David, stay out of this. Grandma snapped before turning back to me. Amanda, dear, you know your mother would have wanted. Don't, I cut her off sharply. Don't bring Mom into this. You don't know what she would have wanted. Grandma's eyes narrowed. I raised you after she died. I think I know what's best for this family. Your mother respected tradition, unlike you. Rebecca, ever the golden child, leaned forward. Grandma's right. The club is beautiful in spring. Remember my debutante ball? Oh, how could I forget? I deadpanned. You only mention it at every single family gathering. Amanda. Aunt Patricia gasped. Show some respect. Marcus stood, sensing the storm brewing. Maybe we should leave. Sit down, young man, Grandma commanded before turning her attention back to me. Amanda, we need to discuss the guest list. I've already drafted it minus 300 of our closest family and friends. 300? I nearly choked. Grandma, we want a small wedding. Small? What will people think? She scoffed. No, I've already spoken to Reverend Matthews. He's holding the first Saturday in May for you. You did what? My voice rose as I pushed back my chair. This is exactly why I didn't want to have dinner tonight. You always do this, make decisions about my life without asking me. I'm trying to give you the wedding you deserve, she said, her tone icy. No, I said firmly. You're trying to control everything, just like always. Marcus, let's go. In the car, Marcus held my trembling hands. You okay? He asked softly. No, I whispered, swallowing back tears. But I will be. I'm done letting her control me. The next morning, I received an email from the bridal shop. My appointment had been modified to include a vintage fitting. Confused, I rushed to the boutique, only to find Grandma Eleanor already there, clutching a yellowed garment bag. Surprise, darling, she beamed. I brought my wedding dress. 5 generations of brides in our family have worn this. No, I said, my voice firm. I've already chosen my dress. That modern monstrosity, she spat. It has no soul, no history. She unzipped the bag to reveal a deteriorating lace gown. This is what a proper bride wears, Amanda. Be reasonable. As if on cue, Aunt Patricia appeared from behind a rack. Your grandmother's put so much thought into this. Of course, Grandma brought backup. Did you ambush my appointment on purpose? I asked, incredulous. We're here to help. Rebecca waltzed into the boutique wearing her practiced smile. I wore Grandma's veil at my wedding, she said sweetly. Remember how beautiful it was? Your wedding was your choice, I snapped. This is mine. Before I could say more, Marcus walked in, stopping short at the chaotic scene. Everything okay, Val? No, everything is not okay, I said, my voice trembling with anger. They hijacked my fitting. Young man, Grandma Eleanor interjected, her tone sharp. Surely you understand the importance of family traditions. Marcus squared his shoulders. I understand it's Amanda's choice. Choice? Grandma huffed. I've already spoken to Reverend Matthews about the ceremony. I made some necessary changes to those ridiculous modern vows. What changes? I asked, my head spinning. I replaced them with traditional ones, Grandma announced triumphantly. And I've taken care of that. Female efficient. She's gone. You what? Marcus stepped forward, his voice firm. You can't just do that. I most certainly can, Grandma shot back. I'm paying for this wedding. No, you're not, I exploded. We never asked for your money. We're paying for everything ourselves. Her face darkened. Then you'll regret it. No financial support. No club membership. Nothing. Grandma. Rebecca tried to interject, but I cut her off. Don't, I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. Don't use my dead mother against me again. The boutique fell silent as the weight of my words hung in the air. I found the canceled appointments, the changed vendor contracts, everything. You've been sabotaging my wedding. I've been fixing everything, Grandma shot back. You're too young to understand. I'm 29, I said, my voice steady. I run marketing campaigns worth millions. I'm not a child, and you don't control me. Amanda, please, Aunt Patricia pleaded, reaching for my arm. Your grandmother knows best. No, she doesn't, I said firmly, pulling away. And you're just as bad, always enabling her. Rebecca, too, always playing along, making everyone else look bad for having boundaries. That's enough, Grandma said, her voice trembling with fury. If you don't wear this dress, if you don't follow tradition, then what? Then disown me, I said, meeting her glare. Go ahead. I'd rather have no family than one that doesn't respect me. Marcus took my hand. Let's go, Val. In the car, tears streamed down my face. She's been calling all our vendors, changing things behind my back, I whispered. She even tried to cancel our venue. We'll fix it, Marcus said gently. Together. No more trying to please her. No more guilt. The wedding day arrived, and as Lisa, my best friend, adjusted my veil, the bridal suite door burst open. Grandma stormed in, clutching her yellowed dress bag, followed by a parade of elderly relatives I barely recognized. This ends now, she declared. Margaret, show her the photos. Every woman in this family has worn this dress. Get out, I said firmly. Lisa stepped between us, her hands on her hips. You ungrateful child. Grandma spat. Your mother would never. Enough. Aunt Patricia stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. Sarah hated these traditions. Remember how you forced her to cancel her beach wedding? Patricia, hold your tongue. Grandma snapped. No, I've held it too long, Aunt Patricia said. You did the same to my sister, and now she won't even speak to us. Guests began gathering at the door as Grandma raised her voice, deliberately loud. Amanda is destroying our family legacy. This modern ceremony is a disgrace. The only disgrace, Uncle David's voice cut through the commotion, is how you're acting, Mother. David, stay out of this. Grandma shouted. No, he said firmly. You drove half our family away with your control. Sarah wanted something different for Amanda. You don't know what Sarah wanted, Grandma hissed. Yes, I do, he said, pulling out an envelope. She left a letter for Amanda. I've kept it since the accident, waiting for the right time. What letter? I asked, my hands trembling. Don't you dare, Grandma warned, lunging for it. But Uncle David handed it to me. I opened it with shaking hands and began to read aloud. Amanda, I read, tears streaming down my face. Don't let anyone force you into their mold, especially not my mother. Live your life, my wayward little star. This is ridiculous, Grandma barked. Rebecca, tell them. But Rebecca's perfect facade finally cracked. Like how you convinced me to break up with James because he wasn't from the right family? Or how you pushed me into that awful society marriage. I hate my life, Grandma. You didn't give me everything. You took everything. The wedding coordinator appeared in the doorway. We need to start. This wedding is not happening, Grandma shrieked, grabbing my arm. Security, Lisa shouted. 2 guards appeared, gently but firmly escorting Grandma out as she screamed, You're ruining everything. No, Grandma, I said, my voice calm and steady. You ruined everything by never letting anyone live their own life. If you do this, you're no granddaughter of mine, she spat as she was led away. I haven't been for a long time, I whispered. Uncle David hugged me. Your mom would be so proud. The ceremony was perfect, exactly as Marcus and I had planned. Afterward, at a small reception hosted by Aunt Patricia, she smiled warmly. Amanda, Sarah's coming next week. My daughter is finally speaking to me again. That's wonderful. How long has it been? 10 years. Aunt Patricia sighed, her voice tinged with regret. All because I let your grandmother convince me Sarah's lifestyle was inappropriate. She's a successful artist in New York now, Uncle David added. Mother's not taking it well. The church committee asked her to step down after Mrs. Peterson revealed how she blackmailed her daughter out of art school. Did you hear about Rebecca? Aunt Patricia leaned in, a conspiratorial smile on her face. She ran off with her old boyfriend James, left a note for her society husband and everything. Good for her, I said, smiling at the memory of James from high school. They're in California, Aunt Patricia continued. She's finally pursuing her dance career. Says she feels alive for the first time in years. The doorbell rang, cutting through the conversation. Marcus answered, returning moments later with a tense expression. Val, it's your grandmother's friend, Mrs. Harrison. Mrs. Harrison. I raised an eyebrow as the older woman hesitated in the doorway, wringing her hands. Amanda, dear, she began, her voice trembling. The Lady Society held a vote. Eleanor's membership, we had to terminate it. After what came out about her threatening the rector's wife. I'm not getting involved, I said firmly, folding my arms. She's all alone now, Mrs. Harrison continued, almost pleading. The Bridge Club, the Garden Society, everyone's heard the stories. Maybe if you spoke to her. No, my voice was resolute. She made her choices. After she left, Marcus wrapped his arms around me. You okay? Actually, yes, I replied, surprising myself with the truth. The family's healing without our control. Sarah and Patricia are reconnecting. Rebecca's free. Uncle David's finally speaking up. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. Starting dance classes tomorrow. James says hi, miss you all. She's still sitting alone in that big house. Aunt Patricia mentioned softly, refusing to acknowledge any wrongdoing. That's her choice, I said simply, just like this is ours. Uncle David raised his glass, his smile warm. To Amanda and Marcus for showing us it's never too late to break free. To freedom. Everyone echoed, their voices bright with hope. Outside, autumn leaves swirled past the window, painting a world in shades of gold and crimson. Somewhere across town, I knew Grandma Eleanor sat alone in her formal dining room, surrounded by traditions but no family. Her bridge club meetings canceled. Her social calendar empty. Her control finally gone. But here, in my home filled with love and laughter, I was exactly where I wanted to be. No guilt. No manipulation. No toxic traditions. Just family, the way it should be. Marcus squeezed my hand, and I smiled. Sometimes the best family isn't the one you're born into. It's the one you choose to build. What would you do if you discovered that your most cherished family member was manipulating multiple lives behind the scenes? Would you stay silent to keep the peace, or would you be the one to break the cycle of generational trauma, even if it meant losing your support system? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose between family traditions and your own happiness? How did it turn out? If you enjoyed Amanda's journey of breaking free from toxic control and creating a healthier family dynamic, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more real stories of empowerment and resilience. My name is Lisa, and I'm a 24-year-old woman living in Austin, Texas. Life hasn't exactly turned out the way I imagined, but it's taught me some hard lessons about family, love, and the value of standing up for yourself. I married my husband, Cody, 3 years ago. Back then, I believed he was my partner in everything, a man who loved me for who I was and would always have my back. But from the moment I stepped into his family home, things changed. My mother-in-law, Karen, made it her mission to remind me I didn't belong. She would smile and pretend to adore me when Cody was around. But the moment we were alone, her mask would drop. Karen hated me, and she made no effort to hide it. The problem wasn't just that I married her son. It was that I earned more than him. I worked as a marketing analyst for a tech company, and my paycheck often covered more of our expenses than Cody's did. Karen couldn't stand that. In her eyes, it was my job to cater to my husband and his family, no matter what I brought to the table. She started treating me like a live-in maid. "You're home early. Why don't you clean the kitchen?" she'd say. Or, "Cody works so hard. Shouldn't you handle the laundry?" It wasn't about chores. It was about control. I cooked dinner for everyone after a long day at work, only for Karen to criticize it. I'd scrub the floors, and she'd find something I missed. Cody would tell me to ignore her, but he never stood up for me. The worst part was the double-faced act. Around Cody, Karen would sing my praises. "Lisa's so hardworking," she'd gush. "You're lucky to have her." But when he wasn't there, she'd call me names, roll her eyes at me, or even guilt me into running errands for her. Despite all this, I kept telling myself to push through. This is marriage, I thought. It'll get better. But the truth was, I was bending over backward for a family that didn't appreciate me, and every day, it wore me down a little more. It all came to a head on my 25th birthday, a day I had hoped would be filled with joy and love. I'd worked so hard to make that house feel like a home, to be a good wife, and to endure Karen's constant jabs. Deep down, I wanted that day to remind me why I'd chosen this life. To celebrate with my husband and maybe, just maybe, feel like I belonged. I decided to keep the celebration small, just the three of us. Cody, Karen, and me. I planned everything from the decorations to the cake, and even set up Karen's favorite chair at the table. I wanted to prove to her that I wasn't trying to replace her in Cody's life, that we could all coexist peacefully. The evening started off smoothly. Karen even complimented my outfit, which was rare. I thought maybe, for once, we'd have a nice moment as a family. When it came time to cut the cake, I hesitated for a second. Karen was sitting right there, scrolling on her phone, and Cody was distracted with a work email. I didn't want to seem selfish, so I asked, "Should we wait for you to finish, Karen?" She waved me off. "Go ahead, Lisa. Don't wait on me," she said without looking up. So I picked up the knife, smiled at Cody, and made the first slice. The next few seconds are a blur in my memory. One moment, I was cutting the cake. The next, Karen was on her feet shouting, "How dare you cut the cake without asking me?" She screamed, her voice sharp enough to make Cody jump. I was stunned. She just told me to go ahead. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could say a word, she slapped me across the face. The sting of her hand on my cheek wasn't just physical, it was humiliating. And as if that wasn't enough, she grabbed a handful of the cake I'd spent hours decorating and threw it at me. The room fell silent. I stood there, my cheek burning, frosting sliding down my face, completely shocked. I turned to Cody, my husband, the man who was supposed to love and protect me. "Cody," I said, my voice trembling, "are you seriously going to let her do this to me?" I hoped, prayed, that he'd stand up for me, that he'd tell Karen she was out of line. But instead, he sighed, ran his hand through his hair, and said, "Lisa, why do you always have to start drama?" It was like the air had been sucked out of the room. "Drama?" I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. "Don't raise your voice at me," he snapped. You know how sensitive my mom is. You could have waited for her." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Karen was standing there, glaring at me with smug satisfaction, and Cody, the one person I thought I could count on, was taking her side. I didn't argue. What was the point? My birthday, the one day that was supposed to be about me, had turned into another stage for Karen to humiliate me. And Cody, as always, let her. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene over and over in my head. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't cry. I couldn't even be angry. All I felt was a deep, hollow sadness. By the time the sun came up, I knew what I had to do. This wasn't just about the cake or the slap. It was about the years of disrespect, the endless sacrifices, and the realization that neither Karen nor Cody would ever change. The next morning, I packed my things. I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell or demand explanations. I just left. I didn't even leave a note. For the first time in years, I chose myself. Leaving wasn't easy. For weeks after I walked out, I kept waiting for Cody to come after me, to call and apologize, to tell me he'd made a mistake. But all I got was silence. The first few days were the hardest. I rented a small apartment downtown and started piecing my life back together. The emptiness in that space mirrored the void I felt inside. But as the days turned into weeks, something strange happened. I started to feel lighter. Without Karen's constant criticism and Cody's indifference weighing me down, I could finally breathe. I threw myself into my work, took up yoga, and even joined a local book club. For the first time in years, I was living for myself, not for someone else. 3 years passed, and I became someone I barely recognized, stronger, happier, and more confident. My career soared. I made friends who felt more like family than Karen or Cody ever did. I stopped thinking about them altogether. That is, until one evening when my phone rang. The name on the screen stopped me in my tracks. Cody. I hesitated before answering, a flood of emotions rushing in. What could he possibly want after all this time? Liza. His voice cracked as soon as I picked up. I need you. It wasn't the confident, dismissive tone I remembered. He sounded desperate, almost broken. Mom's gone, he continued, barely able to get the words out. She passed away last week. I don't know what to do. The house is falling apart. I'm falling apart. I've lost everything, Lisa. I need you. Please come back. I was stunned. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. His words swirled in my mind. I need you. The same man who stood by as his mother humiliated me, who dismissed my pain, now wanted me to swoop in and save him. Liza, he pleaded when I didn't respond. I've changed. I realize now how much I hurt you, how wrong I was to let Mom treat you that way. I miss you, baby. Please, come home. We can start over. We can build a new life together. I took a deep breath, the weight of his words pressing against my chest. But then, I remembered. I remembered Karen's slap, the frosting sliding down my face, Cody's cold indifference, and the years I spent breaking my back for a family that never respected me. No, I said firmly, my voice steady. What? He stammered, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. No, Cody, I repeated. I'm not coming back. I'm not your savior. I'm not your maid. And I'm definitely not the woman who's going to fix your life because you let it fall apart. Liza, please. Do you remember the day you humiliated me on my birthday? When you sided with your mother instead of defending me, you made your choice, Cody. And now I'm making mine. There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing, could feel the weight of his silence. I spent 3 years rebuilding my life, I continued. 3 years learning to love myself after everything you and your mother put me through. And I'm not going to throw all that away just because you suddenly realize what you lost. But I've changed, he whispered. Maybe you have, I said. But it doesn't matter. I don't need you anymore, Cody. I've moved on, and you should too. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. This wasn't about revenge or holding a grudge. It was about choosing myself, something I should have done a long time ago. When I hung up the phone, I didn't feel regret or sadness. I felt relief. Cody's problems weren't mine anymore, and I was finally free to live the life I deserved. After that phone call, I felt a sense of clarity I hadn't known before. It wasn't just about turning Cody down. It was about fully stepping into the life I had built for myself. For years, I had defined my worth by what I could do for others, by how much I could endure. But now, I saw my strength in a different light. not as someone who tolerated pain, but as someone who chose happiness. The life I had rebuilt was beautiful in ways I never expected. My small apartment had grown into a cozy sanctuary filled with things that brought me joy. My job, once a means to escape the chaos at home, had blossomed into a career I loved. I'd started traveling, something I'd always dreamed of but never had the freedom to do. More importantly, I'd surrounded myself with people who truly cared about me. My book club turned into a circle of close friends who celebrated my wins and held me up when I faltered. They were there for the little moments too: movie nights, weekend brunches, and even an impromptu road trip to the Grand Canyon. On my 28th birthday, 3 years after the disaster that drove me to leave, I threw a party for myself. Not out of obligation, not to please anyone else, but simply because I wanted to celebrate me. My friends decorated my home with fairy lights and flowers, and we danced in the living room to my favorite songs. When it was time to cut the cake, everyone cheered, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing but joy. Standing there, knife in hand, I thought back to that moment 3 years ago when Karen slapped me and Cody stood by. It wasn't sadness I felt, it was gratitude. Because if that night hadn't happened, I might never have found the courage to walk away. My life now wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I learned to trust myself, to set boundaries, and to let go of people who didn't deserve a place in my heart. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for someone else to save me. As I looked around the room, at the friends who had become my family, at the life I had built from the ground up, I realized something. I didn't need Cody. I didn't need Karen. I didn't need anyone to complete me because I was already whole. And that was the greatest gift of all. Hi, I'm Laura. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. But when you're 8 months pregnant with your first baby, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement and miss the red flags waving right in front of you. My husband, Marcus, and I had been over the moon when we found out I was pregnant. After 2 years of trying, those 2 pink lines felt like a miracle. Marcus's father, Richard, seemed particularly thrilled. He lived just 10 minutes away in our small town and immediately started dropping by more often. "You need someone to keep an eye on you," he'd say, showing up unannounced with groceries or handyman tools. Marcus works such long hours at the hospital, and I'm retired. What else am I going to do? At first, his attention seemed sweet. He fixed squeaky doors, installed baby-proof locks, and even repainted the nursery. But then the comments started. "You shouldn't be eating that in your condition," he'd say, snatching food off my plate. "Are you sure you should be working?" In my day, pregnant women stayed home. This despite my doctor encouraging me to continue remote work as long as I felt comfortable. "Marcus says you've been complaining about back pain," he'd add. "You're probably not getting enough exercise." When I tried to stand up for myself, Richard would laugh it off. "Oh, pregnancy hormones. You're so sensitive these days." Marcus always intervened when I told him about these incidents, but Richard brushed it off as jokes or concern. "Dad means well," Marcus would say. "He's just old school." Then came the emergency. With just 2 weeks until my due date, Marcus was called to assist with a critical surgery at another hospital 4 hours away. It was a 3-day assignment. "I don't want to leave you," he fretted, pacing the bedroom while packing. "What if you go into labor early?" "I'll be fine," I had assured him, though my heart was racing. "Your dad's just down the road, remember." When Marcus called his father to ask him to be on standby, Richard's voice boomed through the speakerphone. "Of course. Don't worry about a thing, son. Laura and the baby are in good hands." That evening, as Marcus's car disappeared down the driveway, I noticed Richard standing in his front yard across the street, waving goodbye. He caught my eye and smiled, but something about that smile made my skin crawl. And that's how I ended up experiencing the most terrifying night of my life. The contractions started at midnight. At first I told myself they were just Braxton Hicks, but by 2 a.m., I knew this was the real thing. They were coming every 7 minutes. "Richard, it's Laura," I said, my voice shaking as I made the first call. "I think I'm in labor." "What?" "It's the middle of the night. Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure. The contractions are getting stronger. I need to go to the hospital." "Give it another hour. First-time mothers always panic. I'll come check on you then." An hour later, I was on my hands and knees, breathing through contractions that were now 5 minutes apart. I called again. "Richard, please, I need to go now." All right, Let me just finish something up. I'll be there soon. 3 more calls. 3 more promises. By 4 a.m., I was crying, hunched over the bathtub. The contractions were coming every 3 minutes, and I could barely speak through them. That's when I heard it, Richard's voice, clear as day through the open bathroom window. "No, I'm not busy," he said, talking on the phone. "Just enjoying my morning coffee. Beautiful sunrise coming up." My blood turned to ice. He was just sitting there, watching the sunrise while I was in labor. "Richard," I screamed through the window. "I can hear you. Please help me." The footsteps on his deck stopped. A door slammed shut. The next 2 hours blurred together, contractions that felt like they were tearing me apart, crawling from room to room in agony, desperate for relief. I called 911, only to be told all ambulances were responding to a major highway pileup. At 6:30 a.m., the overwhelming urge to push hit me. Alone, terrified, and on my bathroom floor when I heard someone pounding on my front door. I thought I was imagining it. "Laura, are you okay?" I heard screaming. It was Julie, my next-door neighbor, just about to head out for her morning run. "Help! I'm in labor," I managed to cry out. Julie sprang into action. With quick thinking and a frantic call to her sister, who was a nurse, she helped me deliver my daughter right there on my bathroom floor. A perfect, screaming 7-pound, 6-ounce baby girl. As Julie wrapped the baby in clean towels, I could still hear movement from Richard's house. The unmistakable sound of his car starting and the garage door opening. "Looks like your father-in-law's heading out for the day," Julie muttered, her voice tight with anger. Funny though, I could have sworn I saw him on his deck hours ago when I was letting my dog out. I looked down at my daughter's face, then back at Julie. "Julie, could you check your security cameras from last night? I need to know exactly when he was outside." Her expression hardened. "Oh honey, I'll do better than that. I'll download every second of footage from the past 12 hours. Something tells me Marcus needs to see this." Even as my body shook from exhaustion and pain, my mind was clear. Richard had no idea, but he just made the biggest mistake of his life. The next 2 days in the hospital were grueling. Complications from the unassisted delivery, a fever from infection, stitches for tears, and blood pressure that refused to stabilize, left me feeling battered. But through it all, I clutched my phone, waiting for Marcus to return my calls. When he finally burst into my hospital room, his face was ghost white. "Dad said he didn't know," Marcus stammered. "He swears he was sleeping with earplugs and didn't hear his phone. Baby, I'm so sorry." "He's lying." Julie stepped forward from the corner, where she'd been waiting quietly. She pulled out her tablet and set it on the table. "I have proof." The security footage was crystal clear. Richard standing on his deck at 4:00 a.m., sipping coffee. The timestamp matched my call history perfectly. Then came the audio, my screams for help cutting through the silence, followed by the sound of Richard retreating indoors. Marcus gripped the hospital bed rail so hard his knuckles turned white. "There's more," he said grimly. "When I called him from the road, he said he checked on you at 7:00 a.m. and that you were sleeping peacefully. He claimed you must have had the baby right after that." "I have footage of that too," Julie said. "His car leaving at 7:15. He never came to check. He just left." That's when my sister Sarah burst into the room, her face flushed with anger. "You won't believe what this bastard posted on Facebook during all this," she exclaimed, holding up her phone. At 4:37 a.m., Richard had written, "Nothing better than a peaceful morning watching the sunrise. Some people just don't appreciate the quiet moments in life." Then, at 6:15 a.m., "Young people these days are so dramatic about everything. Back in my day, we handled things without all the fuss." Marcus staggered into a chair, his head in his hands. "I don't understand. Why would he?" "Because he's always been like this." The voice came from the doorway. It was Linda, Marcus's aunt, her eyes brimming with tears. "When your mother was dying, he did the same thing. Ignored her calls for help, said she was exaggerating. She crawled to a neighbor's house during her final stroke. He didn't lift a finger to help." Stories came pouring out. Cousins Richard had abandoned in emergencies, neighbors he promised to assist during disasters, but conveniently disappeared on. A lifetime of casual cruelty, all hidden behind excuses and dismissive jokes. Linda's voice was soft but resolute. "This time, he went too far. Marcus stood, his face set like stone. Julie, can you send me all that footage? Sarah, screenshot every one of those posts. Mom's side of the family deserves to know the truth too. I watched my husband transform in that moment. The confused son was gone. In his place stood a protective father, determined to shield his family from a man who had nearly cost us everything. He could have killed you both, Marcus whispered, holding our daughter's tiny hand. He won't get away with it this time. I promise. And he was right. While I recovered in the hospital, Julie wasn't the only one gathering evidence. Richard's reckoning was just beginning. The charges caught Richard completely off guard. He was serving coffee after Sunday service when the papers were delivered in front of the entire congregation. Endangerment of a vulnerable adult in medical distress. Under state law, my pregnancy and the circumstances of the labor made me eligible for protection. This is ridiculous. She's making it all up. Richard's voice echoed through the church hall. But Pastor Mike stepped forward, holding a tablet. We've seen the evidence, Richard, the security footage, your social media posts, the phone records. I wasn't there, but Sarah recorded everything. She captured the moment Richard's face crumpled as Pastor Mike played Julie's security footage on the church's big screen. The congregation gasped as my screams echoed through the speakers, the timestamp glaring alongside footage of Richard calmly retreating inside. I've removed you from the church council, Pastor Mike said quietly, and from the community outreach program. That was only the beginning. Marcus shared everything with his mother's side of the family, the aunts, uncles, and cousins who had drifted apart over the years. What followed was a deluge of shared stories, each revealing Richard's long-standing pattern of cruelty. Within a month, his carefully constructed image of the reliable family patriarch crumbled. No more family dinners. No more leadership roles in the community. Even his country club friends stopped calling after Linda, his wife of 40 years, finally spoke up. He locked me out of the house during a tornado warning last year, she told her bridge club, said I was overreacting to the sirens. I sat in my car watching the sky turn green while he watched TV inside. Linda moved out the next day and filed for divorce a week later. The legal consequences were almost anticlimactic by comparison. Richard took a plea deal. Probation, mandatory counseling, and a restraining order keeping him away from me and my daughter. But his real punishment was the solitude. Last week, I saw him through my kitchen window, shuffling down his driveway to get his mail. His shoulders were hunched, his gait slow. The big house that once bustled with family gatherings now sat dark and silent. Meanwhile, our home is alive with laughter and love. Marcus has become the most protective and attentive father I could imagine. Julie is now one of my closest friends and an honorary aunt to my daughter. Linda moved in with her sister and rediscovered painting, something Richard had always belittled. Just last week, we celebrated my daughter's 6-month birthday with a big backyard party. Family, friends, and neighbors filled the yard, their laughter mingling with the scent of barbecue and the glow of string lights. Through the fence, I noticed Richard standing at his window, watching. For a long time, he just stood there, observing the life he could have been part of, if only he'd shown the slightest bit of decency. Some people tell me I should forgive him, that he's suffered enough. But when I think back to those terrifying hours alone, when I remember how he risked my baby's life, I feel no guilt about his isolation. He made his choices. Now he can live with them. Oh, and that security system Julie had. We've upgraded ours. Just in case someone else ever needs to learn the hard way that actions have consequences. What would you do if an in-law deliberately ignored your desperate calls during a life-threatening emergency, only to later lie and dismiss your fear as dramatic? Would you press charges like Laura did, or handle it differently? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters, and I'd love to hear how you'd navigate such a devastating betrayal.